they'll backfill this dirt up to the house. So that means when the water comes down, it runs away from the building. Hey, my name's Chris. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad to see you coming back to join me. Today, we are going to go through week one. And quite a lot's happened in week one, so I'm going to get straight into it. We are going to start off with day one. So on day one, didn't see much happen. This is where a surveyor comes around and they will mark out where the posts are going to go. And then so the next day, actually we skip the weekend, that's why we go straight to day four, is where we go to leveling the lots. So that's where they'll take a digger, a fairly large digger, and they'll kind of flatten stuff out to try and smooth it out. I'm going to actually hand it over to myself on day 5 of when they've finished excavating. So we're on day 5 right now. So as you can see, they have done a really good job with excavating so far. You can see they've moved their stakes down. So by my feet here, I'm not going to move too far forwards because I don't want to fall into a hole. They've actually started chalking out lines of where footing's going to go. And footing's where the house sits on. That's like the main part of the basement structure goes. So you can see some chalk lines down there. And that's where they're going to put the boards for the footing. And then, so they create the footing down, that's the structural walls. And then that's kind of the basis of the strongest concrete in the building. And then they build the walls up on that, and then they pour a slab in between those footings. So on the side here, so it probably looks a bit odd. Why is it not the same length? So generally in most construction, you do not have basement under your garage. Doesn't make sense. I mean, you can do it, just it's added cost. So they generally only do basements below living space. So as you can see here, we have a double garage. There's going to be 2 on that side and then 1 on this side. So that's why they haven't dug down so much, because they obviously don't need to excavate as much if they're only going to put a slab straight on top of this. Then over there you can see it's the rest in living space. Let's see if we can zoom in a bit. So we've got chalk space, we've got chalk lines down there, and basically the footing's going to go around pretty much the entire perimeter of this, as you can see. And they keep a lot of dirt around. I don't know if it all goes back, but a lot of it will go back, because what they want to do, most of the deal with building a house these days and water management is around keeping just water away from the property. Our basement, these probably are already 4 foot. So over there it's a little bit higher, but reality is it's going to be a 9 to 10 foot basement, but one thing is going to build it up. So the slab walls are going to be higher. The walls are going to end higher than where the side of the dirt is there. And then they'll backfill this dirt up to the house. So that means when the water comes down, it runs away from the building. So if you ever see a house where water is not running away, or the grade is like leading towards the house, you're going to have dam problems. Almost guaranteed. So I'm going to pick it back up here. On day 6, actually, by the time I got to the site, they were still going. They're still going super strong. So it was nighttime before I managed to get any film in there, and they were delivering the formations for the foundation. So they've been in there, they put the footing, the shuttering down for the footing, and they're dropping off the foundations. So so actually, I went over on day 7 morning, and I took some photos of a video of the guys working in a very foggy morning, kind of finishing off the footing, ready to pour concrete by the end of that day. And one thing I want to point out here as well, in the end of that last clip, is something called Surevoid. I advise you go look it up, but the idea of Surevoid is that when you're pouring concrete onto ground, in most places in the US it's fine because your soil is fairly stable. It doesn't change shape when it gets wet. Here in Colorado, we have this something called, I can't remember what the chemical is in the soil, but there's clay-based soil. And when that happens, and when you get a lot of water, it gets saturated, it actually expands. Now, we're not talking like a huge amount, like, you're going to see it doing this, but it's enough that if you pour concrete flush straight up onto dirt, when the water expands, it'll push that concrete up, and because concrete does not flex, it'll actually break it. So this Surevoid stuff is really clever in that it is a corrugated cardboard. So it's cheap, it will decompose, and it's easy to use. They make these, so under piers and beams and slabs, they will put this Surevoid, this corrugated cardboard under it. They'll pour the concrete on top of it, and then what happens is as that soil comes up, the cardboard in between will get crushed, and then it just leaves a gap there. So that way, it gives it space for the soil to expand underneath the concrete and not crack it. So for a builder, this is a really cost-effective way to reduce foundation issues, because cracking in foundations is generally not good. And if you're finding cracks in your foundations, you probably want to get them checked out. So it stops that happening, and it stops and if you know, for a builder, these are production builders, they means they can avoid warranty issues, which is great for them because that means a better margin for them. So all around, super cheap to use and a great product, and this is a huge thumbs up. This isn't something they need to do, just something they do because it makes sense. It's easy to do and it solves a problem for them. So thumbs up. I'm going to hand it back over to myself to go over the footing. So this is what we call footing. Normally a bit more than, looks like 18 inches wide there. Minimum 12, minimum a foot normally. And then what happens is they'll build up these, once this is set, they'll put these forms up the side of it. And then they'll attach those to it, and then they'll pour the concrete on top. So here you can see, this is the garage here that comes out, and then it goes down into the basement behind it. So all these big sheets of the foundation forms, and they're pre-made. So traditionally they'll probably use a wood framing because it's probably custom for that single house, but because they reuse these so many times, these are actually made out of metal. Here is a pier that's going to be count as a support. So as you can see, a decent sized basement. So here as well, you can see these are going to be pier supports built into the foundation. So thank you for joining me again for the first week. As you can see, in 1 week, they have managed to mark out the plot, level it, dig it, put the footing in, pour the footing, and are ready to put the foundation formations up. Pretty amazing how quickly these guys can go. Goes to show you that how these production builders they have a lot of this stuff set out on their production pipeline, so they know exactly what they need to do for these houses because they build more than one. This is where a custom builder differs slightly, because it's a lot of the stuff or the foundations or the layouts a little bit harder for them because they haven't done it before. They have to spend more time working out where things are going to go, whereas this might be the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 20th time these guys have done this layouts. So they can, nice advantage of a production builder is that the house goes up much quicker. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the content so far. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.